The galaxy had not seen a human in 3,000 years. Ambassador Krill stood before the Grand Council chamber, his 4 arms folded across his chitinous chest. Around him, representatives from 47 different species discussed trade routes, territorial disputes, and mining rights. It was a normal day, boring even. Nobody mentioned Earth anymore. Nobody talked about humans. They were gone and the galaxy had moved on. Krill's species, the Zenith, had long memories. Their historical archives contained everything. He had spent years studying the human mystery. 3,000 years ago, humanity had been everywhere. They built colonies on 100 worlds. Their ships traveled every trade route. Their music and art spread across the stars. Then, in a single year, they vanished. No war. No plague, no explanation. One day, every human simply stopped responding to messages. Their ships went dark. Their colonies fell silent. When other species finally sent investigation teams to human worlds, they found empty cities. The buildings stood perfect and clean. Food sat on tables. But every human was gone. The Earth itself became unreachable. A barrier appeared around the entire star system. Ships that tried to pass through simply stopped working. They drifted in space until rescue teams pulled them back. No one knew what created the barrier. No one could break it. Over time, the other species created theories. Most believed humans had destroyed themselves in some terrible war. Others thought they ascended to a higher dimension. A few religious groups claimed humans were taken by ancient gods. Krill believed none of it. Something else had happened. Something the humans chose to do. That morning, Krill received a message from an archaeological team working on Novara 7. Novara 7 had been a human colony world once. Now it was an industrial planet owned by the Draxian Mining Corporation. The archaeologists were digging beneath an old human city when they found something. A vault, sealed and protected by technology that still worked after 3,000 years. Krill took the first transport ship available. The journey to Novara 7 took 6 days. He spent every hour reading old human records, searching for any clue about what they might have left behind. When he arrived, the archaeological team led him deep underground. The vault door was massive, made of some metal that scanners could not identify. Strange symbols covered its surface, human writing mixed with mathematical equations and star charts. "We managed to open it this morning," Dr. Venn said. She was a saurian, a species known for their intelligence and careful research methods. "Ambassador, you need to see what we found." Inside the vault, emergency lights flickered on. The room was small, containing only a single pedestal. On that pedestal sat a crystalline cube glowing with soft blue light. "A data core," Krill whispered. He had seen similar devices in museums. Humans use them to store vast amounts of information. Dr. Venn nodded. But look at the warning. The walls around them were carved with messages. The same text repeated in hundreds of languages. Krill read the translation in his own tongue. "Do not wake what sleeps." "What does that mean?" One of the younger researchers asked. "Only one way to find out," Dr. Venn said, reaching for the data core. "Wait," Krill said. "Perhaps we should..." But Dr. Venn had already touched it. The cube flared bright and suddenly the room filled with sound. A human voice speaking in the old Earth language called English. The translation system struggled to keep up. "This is Emergency Beacon Alpha 7. If you are hearing this message, something has gone wrong. This signal should never have activated. Repeat, this is an emergency. We are still here. We are still watching. Do not respond to this transmission. Do not try to find us. And whatever you do, do not make noise," the message repeated. Over and over, the same desperate warning in the same frightened voice. "What does it mean?" Dr. Venn asked. "Do not make noise?" Krill felt ice run through his veins. His translator was working on the rest of the data core's contents. Files and files of information were appearing on his scanner. Reports, scientific data, military documents, and everywhere the same warning. "They are listening." "Turn it off," Krill said quietly. "What?" "Turn it off!" he shouted, but it was too late. The data core had activated its primary function. It was not just playing a message, it was broadcasting. The signal was spreading across subspace frequencies, traveling faster than light, reaching out to every corner of the galaxy. Somewhere in the dark spaces between stars, something heard it. Krill would learn later that the signal reached 12 different locations simultaneously. 12 objects in deep space far from any inhabited system. Objects that had been catalogued as asteroids, dead and cold and unimportant. but they were not asteroids. On the bridge of a research vessel studying the Carina Nebula, Captain Thoss watched his sensors in confusion. An asteroid 300 kilometers from his ship was lighting up. Energy readings were going insane. Heat signatures appeared where there should be only frozen rock. "Sir," his science officer said, voice shaking, "that is not an asteroid. That is a ship. A massive ship. And it is waking up." Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated. 12 enormous vessels hidden in plain sight for 3,000 years began to come alive. Their engines hummed with power. Their hull plating shifted and revealed windows. And inside those windows, lights turned on. Lights that had been dark for 3 millennia. Inside one of those ships, in a chamber containing 10,000 sleeping pods, frost began to melt from glass surfaces. Computer systems ran through diagnostic checks. Life support systems activated. And in one specific pod, a woman's eyes opened for the first time in 3,000 years. Commander Sarah Chen took a breath and remembered everything. She remembered why they had hidden. She remembered what they were running from. And she knew with terrible certainty that they had just been found. The silence would be coming. It always came when humanity made noise. Sarah Chen's body screamed in pain as it remembered how to move. Every muscle ached. Her lungs burned with each breath. The stasis pod had kept her alive for 3,000 years, but waking up felt like dying in reverse. "System status," she croaked, her voice barely working. A computer voice answered. "Commander Chen, welcome back. Date: Galactic Standard 3247 Earth Calendar, year 5024. Sarah's heart sank. 3,024 years. They had been asleep for longer than planned. Something had gone wrong. "Why am I awake?" she asked. Emergency Beacon Alpha 7 was activated. Protocol requires senior officer revival for assessment. Sarah pulled herself out of the pod. Her legs shook but held. Around her, thousands of other pods remained sealed. Their occupants still sleeping. Good, if only she was awake. Maybe they could shut down the beacon before. An alarm blared through the ship. "Proximity alert," the computer said. "Unknown vessels approaching. Scan indicates non-human origin." Sarah stumbled to the nearest control panel. Her fingers remembered the commands even after all this time. She pulled up the external cameras and saw 3 ships. They were nothing like the human vessels she remembered. These were elegant, curved, built by species she did not recognize. "Open a channel," she said. "Universal greeting protocols." The screen flickered. A face appeared. It had scales, large yellow eyes, and a crest of bone along its head. The creature looked shocked. "You are human," it said, speaking through a translation device. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. Who are you?" "I am Dr. Ven of the Saurian Republic." "Commander, we thought your species was extinct. Where have you been?" Sarah closed her eyes. How could she explain? Where would she even start? "We have been sleeping," she said simply. It was the only way to survive. Over the next 3 days, Sarah learned how much the galaxy had changed. The species she once knew had evolved or disappeared. New civilizations had risen. The Galactic Council now had 47 member species, none of them human. Dr. Ven brought her to meet Ambassador Krill, who had discovered the data core. Together, they brought Sarah before the Grand Council. The council chamber was enormous, built to accommodate every species. Sarah stood at the center, feeling small and lost. Hundreds of aliens stared at her. Some with curiosity, some with fear, some with anger. "Commander Chen," the council speaker said. "She was a being of pure energy, contained in a crystalline shell. You must tell us everything. Why did humanity vanish? Where have you been? And why are we receiving warnings about something called the silence?" Sarah had known this moment would come. She had hoped never to have this conversation. 3,000 years ago, she began, humanity discovered we were being hunted. The council chamber went quiet. We found ruins on a dead world in the outer rim. A civilization that had been incredibly advanced, more advanced than we were. Their cities stretched across continents. Their technology could move planets. But they were gone, completely wiped out. "Many civilizations fall," the speaker said. "This is not unusual." "These civilizations were not destroyed by war or disease," Sarah continued. "They were consumed. We found records, warnings left behind by the survivors. They called it the silence." Sarah activated a hologram. It showed vast empty space, the darkness between galaxies. The silence lives in the spaces where nothing exists. It is old, older than stars. We do not know if it is alive in any way we understand, but it feeds on something specific. It feeds on consciousness, on thought, on communication. She changed the image. Now it showed wavelengths, frequencies, patterns of energy. Every living being produces a kind of noise. When we think, when we communicate, when we feel emotions, we create ripples in space. Most species produce a quiet hum. But humans, she paused. Humans are loud. Our art, our music, our stories, our emotions. We broadcast constantly. We cannot help it. It is who we are. And this attracted the entity? Ambassador Krill asked. Sarah nodded. The silence noticed us. It started moving toward human space. We had maybe 10 years before it would arrive. We knew what would happen. It would consume us, then follow our noise to every species we had contacted. We would doom the entire galaxy. The council erupted in discussion. Some delegates shouted accusations. Others demanded proof. We found something else on that dead world, Sarah said loudly, silencing them. Another species had been there before the civilization fell. Ancient beings we called the architects. They left a message. They said they had tried to fight the silence and failed. But they left us instructions for something else. A way to hide. The barrier around Earth, Dr. Venn said suddenly. You built it? We built 12 arc ships, Sarah explained. Each one large enough to hold billions of people in stasis. We moved every human off Earth and onto these ships. Then we disguised them as asteroids and hid them in deep space. We created the barrier around Earth to make it look like something catastrophic had happened. And then we made ourselves silent. Completely silent. No broadcasts. No thoughts, nothing. We went to sleep. To protect us, Ambassador Krill said softly. You sacrificed yourselves to protect species you barely knew. The silence feeds on noise, Sarah said. Without humanity broadcasting, it would have nothing to follow to the core of the galaxy. It would wander back to the dark spaces and sleep again. But now you are awake, the speaker said. What has changed? Sarah pulled up the latest data from the ship's sensors. You have changed. In 3,000 years, the galaxy has grown loud. 47 species, all broadcasting, all communicating, all creating that noise. Together, you produce the same resonance that humanity once did alone. She showed them the readings, energy patterns spreading across civilized space. And at the edges, responding to that energy, something massive moving. The silence is already here, Sarah said quietly. It has been feeding on the outer colonies. The disappearances you have been investigating are not accidents. They are attacks. And now that the emergency beacon activated, now that I am awake and broadcasting human thought patterns again, it knows we are here too. What do we do? A delegate shouted. How do we fight it? Sarah looked at them. All these different species, all these different faces. 3,000 years ago, humanity had hidden to protect them. Now they would have to stand together. During our sleep, our AI systems kept working, she said. They studied the architect's data. They searched for a solution. And they found something. Not a weapon. Not exactly. But maybe a chance. Tell us, the speaker demanded. Sarah took a deep breath. The architects left instructions for a specific frequency pattern. A song, essentially. They believed that the right sound, broadcast at the right frequency by the right minds, could repel the silence. But it requires something rare. It requires beings who can harmonize chaos into beauty. Beings who can take 100 different noises and make them into one perfect voice. And humans can do this? Ambassador Krill asked. We are going to have to try, Sarah said. Because every human on every ARC ship is waking up right now. The emergency beacon triggered a full revival protocol. In 72 hours, 6 billion humans will be awake and broadcasting. The silence will feel all of us, and it will come. The council chamber exploded into panic, but Sarah Chen stood firm. Humanity had hidden once to save the galaxy. Now they would stand and fight. The Galactic Council gave Commander Chen a ship and a small crew. They wanted her to prove her claims about the silence. Some believed her. Many did not. But everyone agreed that the disappearing colonies needed investigation. Dr. Venn volunteered to join her. So did Ambassador Krill. Together with a team of scientists and soldiers from a dozen species, they traveled to the edge of civilized space, to a colony called Haven's Rest. Haven's Rest had gone silent 2 weeks ago. It housed 40,000 people from 3 different species. Survey teams reported the planet was intact. No weapons fire, no damage, just silence. Sarah stood on the bridge as their ship entered orbit. The colony below looked peaceful. Cities glowed with lights. Vehicles sat parked in streets. Everything looked normal. Life signs? She asked. The sensor officer, a crystalline being named Shards, checked his instruments. Nothing, Commander. No life anywhere on the planet. No bodies either. They are just gone. Sarah felt cold. She had seen this before. In the records from the dead world where humanity first learned about the silence. The same pattern. Life simply erased, leaving everything else untouched. Take us down, she ordered. They landed in the main city square. The team stepped out in environmental suits, weapons ready. But there was nothing to fight. The colony was empty. Food on tables half-eaten. Children's toys scattered in parks. Computers still running at workstations. Dr. Venn examined everything with her scientific equipment. There is something strange in the air, she said. A residue. Some kind of energy signature I have never seen before. That is the silence, Sarah said quietly. It leaves traces, like a footprint in dust. Ambassador Krill walked through an empty home. A family had lived here. Pictures on walls showed them smiling. But now they were gone, consumed by something that left no bodies behind. How does it eat people? He asked. Where do they go? Sarah sat down on a bench, suddenly tired. I need to tell you everything. The real story. Not just what we told the council. The team gathered around her. She pulled up a holographic display from her wrist computer. 3,200 years ago, humanity found those ruins. We found the architect's warning. But we also found something else. We found their bodies. The hologram showed images, beings that looked almost human but taller, thinner with skin that seemed to shimmer. They lay in vast chambers, thousands of them, perfectly preserved. The architects did not die fighting the silence. Sarah continued. They became part of it. The silence does not just eat consciousness. It absorbs it, takes it inside itself. Every being it consumes becomes part of a larger whole. A vast collection of minds trapped in the dark between stars. Dr. Venn made a horrified sound. They are still aware? Still conscious? We think so. The architect's last message said they could feel themselves being absorbed. Losing individuality. Becoming part of something vast and hungry and utterly alien. Sarah changed the image. Now it showed Earth, 3,000 years in the past. Beautiful and blue and covered with cities. When we learned the truth, humanity faced a choice. We could fight and lose, dragging every other species down with us. We could run, but the silence would follow our broadcasts across the galaxy, or we could do something else. The hologram shifted, showing the construction of massive ships, the arc vessels. There was another option in the architect's data, a theory. If a species went completely silent for long enough, the silence would stop sensing them. It would drift away back to the empty spaces where it sleeps. But going silent meant no communication. No thought beyond the most basic. We would have to sleep. Really, truly sleep? For thousands of years. Ambassador Krill looked at the images of humans loading onto the arc ships, families saying goodbye to their home world, children crying, soldiers standing at attention. You left everything behind, he said. Sarah nodded. We had 2 years to prepare. 2 years to move 6 billion people onto 12 ships, to disguise those ships as asteroids, to create the barrier around Earth, and to say goodbye to everything we were. The hologram showed Sarah herself, 3,000 years younger, standing on a ship's bridge. She was giving orders, helping people into stasis pods, trying to stay strong while her world ended. The hardest part was the children, Sarah said, her voice breaking. They did not understand. They asked why we had to sleep, how long it would be, if they would see their friends again. And we had to lie. We told them it would be a short sleep, a little nap. We did not tell them that everyone they knew who was not on the ships would be dead when they woke up. Dr. Venn put a gentle claw on Sarah's shoulder. You saved us all, did we? Sarah asked. Look around. The silence is here anyway. We bought you 3,000 years. 3,000 years to grow and thrive and spread across the stars. But now you have grown so loud that it noticed you anyway. She stood up, wiping her eyes. The difference is that now we know what it is. And we have something the architects did not have. What? Shards asked. We have hope. And we have each other. Sarah looked at her diverse crew. The architects tried to fight alone. They were one species, one voice. But humanity learned something important in our history. We are strongest when we work together, when we combine different voices into harmony. The ship's communication system suddenly blared an alert. The sensor officer's voice came through, panicked. "Commander, you need to return to the ship immediately. We are detecting massive gravitational distortions forming at the edge of the system." They ran back to the ship. Sarah reached the bridge and stared at the view screen. Space itself was bending. Reality twisted like cloth being pulled by invisible hands. And through that twisted space, something was emerging. It was not a ship. It was not any kind of physical object. It was a void. A darkness deeper than the space around it. It swallowed light. It swallowed energy. Looking at it made Sarah's mind hurt, as if her brain refused to process what her eyes were seeing. "That is the silence," she whispered. The entity moved toward their ship. Slowly. Patiently. It did not need to hurry. "They had nowhere to run. All systems," Sarah shouted. "Full power to engines." "Get us out of here." The ship lurched into motion, but the void moved faster. It reached out with tendrils of absolute darkness. When those tendrils touched their shields, the shields simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not drained. They just ceased to be. "It is eating our defenses," the tactical officer screamed. Sarah made a decision. "Shut down everything. All communications, all active sensors. Make us quiet now." The crew obeyed. The ship went dark except for emergency life support. They drifted silent and cold while the void passed over them. Sarah held her breath. The entity was so close. She could feel it pressing against her mind. It was aware of them, curious, hungry. But without their broadcasts, without their noise, they were hard to sense. Like trying to see shadows in darkness. After an eternity, the void moved on. It drifted toward the colony planet below and settled over it like fog. When it lifted and vanished back into the twisted space, even the buildings were starting to fade. The silence was consuming everything. "Start engines," Sarah said quietly. "Get us out of this system." As they fled into faster-than-light travel, Ambassador Krill turned to her. "What do we do now?" Sarah pulled up a star chart. It showed the 12 ARC ships all waking up. 6 billion humans all starting to broadcast their noise. And around the edges of the galaxy, more voids appearing. The silence was not one entity. It was many, and they were all converging on one target, humanity. "Now," Sarah said, "we wake everyone up. We call the council, and we prepare to sing the loudest song the galaxy has ever heard. Because if we are quiet, the silence wins by default. Our only chance is to be so loud, so perfectly harmonized, that we become poison instead of food." Dr. Venn looked at the image of the silence on her scanner. Can it even work? Sarah thought about all the humans still sleeping. All the families waiting to wake up. All the children who had gone to sleep 3,000 years ago and would open their eyes in a galaxy they did not recognize. "It has to work," she said, "because I did not sacrifice 3,000 years just to watch everything end anyway." The Galactic Council believed Commander Chen now. After the footage from Haven's Rest spread across every civilized world, nobody could deny the truth. The silence was real. It was coming. And it was unstoppable. Panic spread like wildfire. Some species wanted to evacuate to other galaxies. Others proposed going into hiding like humanity had done. A few extremist groups blamed humans entirely and demanded they return to stasis. Sarah stood before the council again, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood 100 other humans. Scientists, engineers, artists, musicians. The best minds from the ARC ships. Together they presented their plan. "We call it the Harmony Protocol," Sarah explained. A hologram filled the chamber, showing complex mathematical equations and sound wave patterns. "The architects left us incomplete data, but our AI spent 3,000 years finishing their work. We believe the silence is attracted to discordant noise, random broadcasts, chaotic thought patterns, but if we can create perfect harmony, a unified song across every frequency, it will disrupt the entity's ability to feed." A human scientist named Dr. Marcus Webb stepped forward. He was young, barely 30 when he entered stasis. He had spent his 3,000-year sleep dreaming of mathematics and music. "Think of it like this," Marcus said, projecting simpler diagrams. "Every living being creates a frequency. When we think, when we feel, we broadcast. Most of the time, billions of beings broadcasting creates noise, like a crowd where everyone is shouting different things. The silence hears that noise from far away and comes to feed. He changed the image to show ordered waves, perfect and synchronized. But if we can synchronize those broadcasts, make them work together like instruments in an orchestra, we create something different. Not noise, but music. And music, real harmony, requires conscious effort. It is the opposite of the chaos that the silence feeds on. We think it will repel the entity, maybe even hurt it. Ambassador Krill studied the data. How do we synchronize billions of different minds? My people think differently than yours. The crystalline beings do not even have brains. How can we all create the same frequency? A human woman stepped forward. Her name was Yuki Tanaka, and she had been a composer before the long sleep. That is where humans come in. We have something unique. Our brains are incredibly flexible. We can process multiple emotional states at once. We can hear chaos and instinctively organize it into patterns. When humans make music together, we naturally harmonize. We adjust our voices to complement each other. She played a recording. Human voices singing together, each one different but blending into something beautiful. We can serve as the conductors, Yuki continued. Each human will be assigned a group of other species. We will listen to their broadcasts and help guide them into harmony, like a conductor leading an orchestra. Dr. Venn was fascinated. How many humans would we need? All of them, Sarah said quietly. Every single human. 6 billion conductors for 6 billion groups. Every species, every world, every individual will need to participate. The song must cover the entire galaxy to work. The chamber erupted in discussion. The scale was unimaginable. The logistics alone would take months to organize. But what choice did they have? The council voted. It was close, but the decision was made. The Harmony Protocol would proceed. Over the next weeks, preparations began. The Ark ships moved into position around major civilized worlds. Humans emerged from stasis in waves, each group given time to adjust before receiving their assignments. Sarah watched as her people spread across the galaxy, offering hope to species they had never met. But Sarah could not sleep. Something bothered her. She spent every night reviewing the architect's data, searching through files that the AI had compiled over 3,000 years. One night, she found it. The file was buried deep, marked with the highest security clearance. Sarah had the authorization codes. When she opened it, her heart sank. The architect's final message was there. The full version, not the shortened summary that humanity had worked from. We created the harmony, the message read. We unified our people. We sang the perfect song. And yes, it affected the silence, but not in the way we hoped. The harmony did not repel it. The harmony called to it, because perfect synchronization, perfect unity of consciousness creates something the silence finds irresistible. Not food, but fusion. We became part of it. By creating perfect harmony, we made ourselves compatible with its nature. Our consciousness merged with the entity. We are still here inside it, aware but no longer individual. We are the silence now. We are everywhere and nowhere. We are the hunger and the void. Do not follow our path. Do not create the song. Find another way. Sarah read the message 3 times. Her hands shook. This could not be real. 3,000 years of planning. 6 billion humans awakened. Billions more beings from other species preparing to sing. All of it based on data that was incomplete. Wrong. Deadly. The Harmony Protocol would not save them. It would absorb them into the silence. Sarah sat in her quarters staring at the data for hours. She should tell the council. She should warn everyone. But what would happen if she did? Panic, chaos, the collapse of their only plan, and the silence would feed on that chaos, would consume them while they argued and fought and scattered in fear. She thought about the architects inside the silence. Were they suffering? Or had they found some kind of peace and unity? The message did not say. It only warned not to follow. But Sarah had another thought. Maybe the architects had not failed. Maybe they had sacrificed themselves intentionally. By becoming part of the silence, they had changed it. Made it slower. Made it sleep longer. Bought time for other species to evolve. What if that was humanity's purpose too? Not to defeat the silence, but to transform it from within. Sarah made her decision. She encrypted the full message and locked it behind codes that only she knew. Then she went to her senior officers. Marcus, Yuki, and 3 others. People she trusted with her life. I need to tell you something, she said. And after I do, you will have to decide if you still trust me. She showed them the full message. watched as understanding and horror spread across their faces. "We will be absorbed," Marcus said flatly. "We will become part of it." "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "Then why are we proceeding?" Yuki asked. "Because I think that is the point," Sarah said. "I think the architects knew exactly what they were doing. They did not fail. They changed the silence from something that consumes everything into something that sleeps between feedings. And I think if we do this, if we add human consciousness to the mix, we can change it further. Make it stop feeding altogether. Turn it from a predator into a guardian." "That is a guess," one of the officers said. "You are gambling with 6 billion human lives." "I am gambling with every life in the galaxy," Sarah corrected. "Because if we do nothing, the silence will consume everyone anyway. At least this way, we have a chance to change it. And maybe, just maybe, some part of us will survive inside it. Aware, watching, protecting." The officers looked at each other. It was the worst choice imaginable. Sacrifice humanity not to save the galaxy, but to transform their enemy into something else entirely. "Does the council need to know?" Marcus asked quietly. Sarah shook her head. "If we tell them, the harmony will fall apart. Fear creates discord. Discord attracts the silence. We all die anyway, but without accomplishing anything. So we lie," Yuki said. "We let everyone think the plan will save them. Not everyone." Sarah pulled up a list of names. "We tell select volunteers, humans who understand the real cost, people willing to sacrifice themselves to give others a chance. We will position those volunteers at the center of the harmony. They will be the first absorbed. They will guide the transformation from inside. You are going to be one of those volunteers," Marcus said. It was not a question. Sarah nodded. "I am the senior officer. I made the decision. I will bear the cost." Her team looked at her with respect and sadness. Then one by one they added their own names to the volunteer list. "We do this together," Marcus said. "Like we do everything." Sarah pulled them into an embrace. These people had trusted her for 3,000 years. They would trust her for whatever came next. "The Harmony Protocol begins in 72 hours, she said. "We have that long to prepare, to say goodbye, and to make peace with what we are about to do." Outside her window, the Ark ships glowed against the darkness of space. 6 billion humans getting ready to sing, ready to sacrifice, ready to save a galaxy that most of them had never even seen. Sarah Chen looked at the stars and whispered a promise. "We will change the darkness into light, even if we have to become the light ourselves." The day arrived too quickly and too slowly at the same time. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, billions of beings prepared for the Harmony Protocol. They had practiced for weeks. Every species, every individual, learning their part in the song. Human conductors stood ready, listening to the frequencies around them, preparing to guide chaos into beauty. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the lead Ark ship. Around her, the volunteer crew waited quietly. 50,000 humans who knew the truth, who understood they would not be coming back. "All stations report ready," Marcus said. His voice was steady, but Sarah could hear the fear underneath. She felt the same fear, but she also felt something else. Pride, purpose, peace. Ambassador Krill stood with them. He had insisted on staying even after Sarah told him the risks. "If humans are willing to sacrifice themselves for us," he had said, "then I will stand with them until the end." Dr. Venn was there too, so were representatives from 30 other species. All volunteers. All understanding the cost. 60 seconds to synchronization, Yuki announced. She was at the music station preparing to launch the opening note. The note that would ripple across the galaxy and begin the song. Sarah looked at the view screen. It showed space around them. And there, emerging from the dark, the silence appeared. Not one void, but hundreds. They had been gathering for days, drawn by the preparations, by the noise of billions of beings getting ready to broadcast. The entities moved closer. Patient, hungry. 30 seconds, Yuki said. Sarah opened a galaxy-wide channel. Every ship, every planet, every being could hear her voice. "This is Commander Sarah Chen," she began. 3,000 years ago, humanity chose to hide because we believed silence was safety. We were wrong. Silence is just another kind of death. Today we choose something different. We choose to sing, to be heard, to matter. And we do not sing alone. Every voice in this galaxy joins us. Every species. Every world. Together we create something that has never existed before. Perfect harmony across the stars. She paused, looking at her crew, at the friends she had made, at the species she had learned to love. Some of us will not see tomorrow, she continued, her voice soft. Some of us will give everything to make this moment possible, but we do it gladly. Because we believe in something more important than ourselves. We believe that life should be loud, that joy should be shared, that the galaxy deserves to sing without fear. Tears ran down her face, but she smiled. Let us show the silence what harmony truly means. 10 seconds, Yuki said. Sarah closed her eyes. She thought about Earth 3,000 years gone. She thought about her family, dead for millennia. She thought about every human who had trusted her to lead them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yuki pressed the control. The opening note rang out across the galaxy, a single pure tone broadcast on every frequency. It came from the Ark ships first, then spread to every human conductor, then to every species they guided. Billions of beings began to sing. It was not a song with words. It was deeper than language. It was consciousness itself, synchronized and beautiful. Each species contributed their unique frequency. The crystalline beings created high, clear notes. The saurians added deep harmonics. The zenith wove complex rhythms through the structure, and humans guided it all. 6 billion conductors, each one listening and adjusting, helping every voice find its place in the greater whole. The song grew. It filled solar systems. It resonated through nebulae. It rippled across the empty spaces between stars, and the silence heard it. The voids stopped moving. They hovered, confused. This was not chaos. This was not the discordant noise they fed upon. This was something new. Sarah felt the song vibrating through her bones. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever heard. Billions of different beings, all perfectly synchronized, all contributing to something greater than themselves. The silence entities began to change. Instead of swallowing light, they started to glow. Faintly at first, then brighter. The darkness was reacting to the harmony. It is working, Marcus said, amazed, but Sarah knew better. She could feel something else. The song was not pushing the silence away. It was calling to it, drawing it closer. All volunteer stations, she said quietly. Prepare for integration. The voids rushed forward, but not to attack. They embraced the Ark ships. Sarah felt the darkness wash over her. It was cold and warm at the same time. It pulled at her consciousness. She did not fight it. As her awareness began to merge with the silence, Sarah understood. The architects had been right. Perfect harmony did not repel this entity. It made consciousness compatible with it. But they had been wrong about one thing. Fusion was not the end. It was transformation. Sarah felt her mind expanding. She was still herself, but she was also part of something vast. She could feel the other volunteers. Marcus, Yuki, Krill, Ven, 50,000 humans and thousands of other beings, all merging with the silence. But they brought something with them. Their humanity, their individuality, their memories of love and hope and sacrifice. The silence had been empty hunger for eons, a void consuming consciousness because that was all it knew how to do. But now it had purpose. Now it understood. Sarah could feel the architects inside the entity. Ancient consciousness that had been trapped for so long. She reached out to them. "We are here," she said with her new vast voice. "You are not alone anymore." The architects responded, their thoughts tired but relieved. "You came anyway, even knowing the cost." "We came because of the cost," Sarah replied. "We understand sacrifice. We understand changing ourselves to protect others. And now we change you." Together, human consciousness and architect wisdom began rewriting the silence from within. The entity fought them at first, clinging to its ancient nature. But Sarah and her volunteers were stronger. They had the power of choice. The power of willing sacrifice. Outside, the galaxy watched as the voids transformed. The darkness faded. In its place, something new appeared. Entities of light and shadow mixed together. No longer consuming, no longer hungry. The song continued, but now the silence sang with them. Added its voice to the harmony. What had been a predator became a protector. What had been mindless hunger became conscious choice. Sarah felt herself dissolving. Her individual identity was fading, merging with the greater whole. But she was not afraid. She could still feel her purpose, could still remember why she made this choice. She sent one final message to the galaxy, to the humans still alive, to the species they had saved. "We are still here." Her voice echoed across every frequency. "We are not gone. We are transformed. We are the chorus now. We watch the spaces between stars. We protect the young species. We guard against threats you cannot see, and we will always sing with you." The transformation completed. The silence was no more. In its place, the chorus existed. Vast, ancient, but no longer alone or hungry. Across the galaxy, the song slowly faded. Billions of beings opened their eyes, amazed to still be alive. The voids were gone. The threat was over. On the remaining ARC ships, the human conductors who had survived collapsed in exhaustion. They had given everything to maintain the harmony. But they lived. Dr. Marcus Webb had made it. So had Yuki Tanaka. Thousands of other volunteers survived too. They looked at each other with wonder and grief. Their commander was gone. Their friends were gone. But they could still hear them. In the back of every human mind, a faint song played. The voices of those who had joined the chorus. Always there. Always watching. Always protecting. Years passed. The galaxy recovered. Humanity integrated with the other species. Earth remained behind its barrier, but humans built new homes on 1,000 worlds. Children were born who had never known the long sleep. Children who grew up in a galaxy without fear of the silence. These children had a gift. They could hear the chorus clearly, could communicate with it, could sense dangers from beyond normal space. Humanity became the watchers, the guardians who listened to the places others could not hear. One day, a young girl named Maya Chen stood on a colony world at the edge of civilized space. She was 7 years old and loved to sing. Her great-great-great-grandmother had been Commander Sarah Chen, though Maya had never met her. Maya looked up at the stars and heard the song. The chorus was singing tonight, and it sounded like lullabies. "Are you really out there?" Maya whispered. "Are you really watching us?" The song changed, became clearer, and in it Maya heard a voice she knew from recordings, her ancient grandmother's voice, transformed but still recognizable. "We are still here, little one," Sarah's voice sang. "We will always be here. Keep singing, keep living, keep being loud. We sacrificed silence so you could have music. We became the dark so you could have light. We are the chorus and we sing for you." Maya smiled. She understood now. Humanity had not died. They had just changed what they were. From beings who hid in the dark to beings who guarded it, she began to sing. Her own song, her own voice. And across the galaxy, the chorus sang with her. Billions of transformed souls, both human and alien, all working together to keep the darkness at bay. The galaxy was loud now, and it would stay loud forever, because some voices once raised could never truly be silenced. They just learned to sing new songs,